Okay, folks, now we've completed the flying part of the contact ride. We're going to taxi in, find our parking spot. That was sometimes tough to remember, is where you parked. Anyway, pull into parking, shut down, fill out the forms, talk to the crew chief if there's anything of significance, and then take the trolley back into the squadron. Once we get in the squadron, you walk in, you clean up your helmet, take alcohol, clean out your mask, hang up your chute, your G-suit, your helmet, and then head down to the TOC, the Training Ops Center. That's where the SOF hung out, and sign in with the takeoff time and the amount of time you flew. Come back by the snack bar, maybe grab a Coke, a cup of coffee, and then head into the flight room for a debriefing. Now, I picked up a technique from my instructor when I went through in 1970. I always encourage, which was kind of mandatory, the other students that I had be there for a debrief if they weren't doing anything else. Because I can teach a student just as well in a debriefing as I can taking them on the actual ride. And as a matter of fact, I learned a lot about flying from listening to my instructor debrief other guys sitting around the table. So I would encourage them to come and just sit and listen to the debriefing and try to relate it to them. That made my job easier, and I think the learning process was easier for them also. So we had a grade sheet, and it was a bubble sheet. So you go through and you fill out the bubbles, start with ground ops and then work your way through it. I always tried to reinforce things that they did well. It's one thing to come down and just beat the crap out of a student, going from one item to the next, and you did this wrong, you did that wrong. I didn't care for that. I wouldn't shy away from it if the student screwed up something. We needed to talk about it, but always offered techniques for improving the maneuver. That being said, I'm going to take an aside here. Once down at PIT, Pilot Instructor Training, I had an IP who worked for me. It was one of my Czech airmen, a guy named Jim Bob. And Jim Bob was a piece of work. So he comes. Now keep in mind, we're training new kids to be instructor pilots as opposed to training them just how to be pilots. So Jim Bob is playing the role of a student, and this student, well, they call them trainees down there because they found the term student was demeaning. So this trainee is debriefing him on his flight. And the other part of this trainee never looked up. He just bore-sighted on the grade sheet. Well, you did this wrong, and this wasn't, you could have done this better. And after about, I don't know how many items were on the grade sheet, maybe 40, I don't know. But after about 5 or 7 of them, Jim Bob looks down, he starts drooling like you would if you're just continually being berated. Just started drooling. And pretty soon he's got a space on his flight suit just getting wet because he's feeling so bad about him. So he's just letting the spittle roll out the side. We were just all rolling. And then the student looks up and sees this big patch on his flight. What the hell? Anyway, I digress. So we go through the grade, but it still tickles me. So we go through the grade sheet, and then once we got through, I'd review it, and I ask them if he had any questions and so forth. And at the end of the grade sheet, we always had to give them an EP, an emergency procedure, and then a general knowledge question or two, something like that, just to keep their mind in the game. Once we got through that, then do you have any questions? No. Okay, we'd take it. We'd take a look at what he did the ride before. Okay, and that way we could map out what was going to be on tomorrow's ride so that he could go home, have a list of things that we were going to do on the next ride, and prepare himself for that also. So that was kind of the way I conducted the debrief. After that, they either turned to another ride or maybe went to a simulator or performed that exciting snack bar officer job. Who knows what. But usually we'd fly with a student twice a day was the norm. Actually, it was the max. They'd have 2 events a day, a simulator ride and an airplane ride, or 2 airplane rides. It just, however the schedule worked out. The last thing I want to mention today, advance, I had a student named Ty Lee, and he was a great kid to work with. I just enjoyed working with that guy. One of my first students. Now, Ty was a good-looking kid. Quiet, very reserved. But anyway, toward the end of the program for him, when he was getting ready to graduate, I had a sister-in-law come into town. And she was single. And she and Ty kind of started dating. And, we would have a distance between the students for the longest time until they were getting ready to graduate. Then we could loosen up a little bit. And that's kind of what happened here. Well, one morning, I got up for work, came out of the bedroom, and I'm walking into the living room, and that's where my sister-in-law was sleeping, on the hide-a-bed. And that was a one-lump hide-a-bed, and this particular morning there were 2 lumps. Ah, crap. What do I do now? So I went back into the bedroom, and I told my wife, hey, listen, we got 2 lumps out there, and there's supposed to only be 1 lump. Oh, God, what are you going to do? And I said, okay. So I took the alarm clock, fired it off, held it up in the hallway, and it goes, roop, 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 roop. And I hear a scurrying, and I hear, oh, shit. And I hear the scurrying going on, and I just took some time to... So anyway, gave it about 2 or 3, 4 minutes. Didn't hear too much of anything. Didn't hear a car, by the way. So anyway, I go out, and no movement at all on the couch. So I just kind of left it at that, and walked out, went to work. Well, I flew that morning with Ty, and it was, an average ride, good ride, I suppose. And we got down for the debriefing, and he was yawning during the debriefing, and I didn't say anything. I just looked at him and I said, late night, Lieutenant? And he just put his hands in his face like that. I later asked him, I said, did you drive over to the house that night? He said, yes, sir. I said, how'd you get out of there without starting your car? He said, I let it roll down off the driveway, and then I pushed it down the street before I started it. God love you. Anyway, just another story upon a story. Good to see everybody. We'll talk to you later.